Look, detectives combing through the hood looking for a corpse. Draco hitting, I don't think your body can endure the force. I whipped the fish up with a fucking hanger or a fork. Told that bitch, go ahead, sniff what you want, there's plenty more to snort. I had an outstanding warrant for a short. Turned myself in, rocking Louis and all my jewelry, I wore the court.
Okay, welcome. We have First Lieutenant Riley Tejcek on episode 76 of the Hard to Kill podcast. Riley is Female Marine Athlete of the Year, 2023 Miss Military, and National Team Bobsled Pilot. Holy shit, you're doing a lot of stuff, girl. Talk to me. How are we doing?
I'm doing so good. Yeah, thank you so much for making the time, and I'm so glad we get to talk. I know I do have some extracurricular activities, but I know you do as well. So I'm excited to talk more with you.
Absolutely. So we're coming from Pendleton to Quantico. How's that? I know that's a big move.
It's a massive move, and the transition's almost bigger because I'm a homeowner now. So
Congrats.
Thank you. And of course, you know, the way the housing market is, it's more like wave inspection, bought sight unseen. So
Gotcha.
Just the of moving cross country, having to like reset up everything. And then I came in, and of course, you know, the typical home stuff, right? Like my goes out, my closet breaks, I didn't get the proper keys.
I saw when you first get there, you're doing the sleep on the floor.
Yes.
Been there.
No furniture. And then half of my furniture, I mean, and you know, it's not their fault, it happens, but was damaged in the move.
Oh, you're referring to TMO. Believe
yes.
me, I hear you. I got you.
So thankful for them, right? But then you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't have a sofa or a dining room table. So at least I'm not sleeping on the floor, but it is, you know, like every military people knows every 2 to 3 years, we pack everything up and we go. So it's nice to be a minimalist. You can't get tied to your stuff, but it is always a really stressful adjustment.
Of course. So where exactly are you in the DC area? I was at Quantico for a little bit, and I stayed in Fredericksburg, and I lived in Arlington for a while.
Yep. So I'm in Arlington.
Awesome.
I at George Washington, so I knew this area really well.
Gotcha.
And being in Quantico, I was like, I've lived in Quantico before. I lived in the Stafford area, and I wanted to be where things are happening.
Absolutely. I hear that completely. So as a first lieutenant, Captain Select, congrats on that. How are you balancing your time, hon? I mean, you're doing athletics, and I mean, as we're all aware, being an officer, you have strict time constraints. You got to be very, very vigilant with your time. How are you balancing these things?
Every day is a challenge, and I don't mean to say that my life is so hard. No, it's just I have a lot of things that I'm trying to fit into a really tight schedule. And like you said, being an officer, my number one priority is my Marines and my job as a Marine officer. And there's days where, you know, that's no 9 to 5 job, right? That's something that there's early mornings, there's late evenings. You know, today I didn't leave the office till I left my house here at 06, and I didn't leave the office until 1800. You know, like there's days like that. But I think what I'm trying to do every day to prioritize is what is important today. And so I used to win the day. What's important now?
Absolutely.
And so day by day, and say, okay, for training, here's what I need to get done. For eating, here's what I need to get done. For recovery, here's what I need to get done. And here's what my day looks like. Ideally, what I think it's going to look like, based off my schedule for the Marine Corps. And so I just have to be so on top of it. That means I have to be disciplined, go to sleep early so I can wake up at 04:30 to go get my training in when I know that I have a long day, because I know I'm not going to get it done after. And honestly, the hard part is saying no to things. I'm a yes person.
Of course.
I love friends and being with people and meeting up and doing things, but there's times when I'm like, I need to prioritize myself. Unfortunately, I need to sleep, or I need to like eat, or I just need to like shut off. So again, it's a day-to-day balance. I think you need to have both. And like you mentioned, I wear a lot of hats. So there's times when I need to just be Riley, like a person, right? There's times when I need to be Lieutenant Tejcek. There's times when I need to be Bob Pilot. you know, and then there's times when I need to be like Miss Military and I need to be able to like put on that. So it's a matter of finding out, winning the day, what's important today, and what do I need to accomplish.
Okay. So where does this motivation come from though? You got to be a very, very, self-motivated person and confident in yourself. Is this something that came from your upbringing, or is it something you learned along the way?
I think that my parents did a phenomenal job instilling confidence and making me develop myself as a leader and to be a little bit self-sufficient very early. I also think a lot of this confidence comes from my faith. I'm a very strong Christian. I've dedicated my life to the Lord. And so we always say, like, I know who I am because I know whose I am. And so I know I'm a child of God. I know my foundation. I I'm bold because I know that I can be. And then my parents, like I said, I'm the oldest, one of two, but they did an excellent job, you know, kind of pushing me and being like, hey, you need to be able to be self-sufficient and do these things on your own. And so I felt like from an early age, I was already like, well, give me more responsibility, give me the reins. I have goals, I have dreams that have been bestowed upon me, and too much is given, much is expected.
Well said. Well said. I think one of the great things about the Marine Corps is they throw a lot of responsibility at you at a very early stage, and that's really for you to show them that you can handle it. And as a young Marine, it's an invigorating feeling to get responsibility over, even in your case, over other Marines at a young age. It makes you want to show them that you're capable, that you can do the mission, So I hear you completely. And something you'll start to learn as well is it's time to be selfish. It's time to really just think about you and worry about your stuff. And the friend stuff will come later. Honestly, that'll always be there. And I think you're already, on your path in doing that, clearly, for being how successful as you are. But we kind of jumped into things. I kind of want to hear where your head's at. Why was it the Marines? Why, and also why was it the officer route? Did you have maybe a good mentor, or was that something that you just jumped into?
I love this question. I love telling the story because every single Marine that I've met has some kind of entrance story. And a lot of it has to do with parents being in the military. That was not me. Some have it to do with like growing up around certain communities. And again, that wasn't me. And so my story, I think, is unique, but I'm not the only one. So essentially I grew up in Indianapolis area, and there's no really big military bases there. And so I always told people I never knew or had aspirations to be a Marine or a military officer as a young girl because I never saw that. And so I'm big and a big proponent, and you have to see it to be it. And that's a big tagline that I've incorporated into my life. And so I never knew I wanted to be that. I accepted a softball scholarship very, very early, right after my freshman year of high school, to play at George Washington University in DC. And I knew when I came to DC that I had the ability to be in an area with influence and change. And so my dad and I love saying this, my dad was a professional baseball player, and he was my softball coach, and he instilled art of being mentally tough, especially in a sport that you fail so often in baseball and softball. And we would watch like the Navy SEAL Buds videos. We would read military books. We loved listening to Jocko podcasts and talk about David, all of the things. So it's like, it was instilled in me without either of us even realizing it. But we equivalated going to war with being at the plate and being in battle.
Okay.
So when I got to George Washington, I wanted to get involved with a 3-letter agency, CIA, FBI, the stuff that as a kid, you're like, I watch the TV shows. That's what I'm going to do. And, the Lord led me, and it was very clear that I met a Marine recruiter kind of on accident within week 3 of being 18 years old. And wow. I just fell in love with everything he had to say. With him too. No, I'm just kidding. But with everything he had to say, right? The fact that the Marine Corps is the most physically demanding branch, mentally, emotionally, all of it. It's the hardest that the United States has to offer. The fact that I could live a life of service and be selfless and serve other people. The fact that I could lead people in some of the hardest times in their life, in combat and out of combat. And the fact that only 5 to 8% of officers are women, and that I have the ability to make a difference and to have people that don't look like me come in and be a catalyst for that. And I was sold, and I never shot weapons. Like, that wasn't a thing. I didn't know the difference between a PFC and a general. I mean, the age kind of gave it away, right? But I didn't know anything. And so here I was just finished my freshman year as a 19-year-old showing up at school and fell in love and was like, okay, Lord, this is where I'm supposed to be. And now I see it.
So this may be a hard question. I mean, in the time that we're in right now, would you say it's hard to just have a, strong faith in God? So to be transparent, I grew up Catholic, and I mean, you hear all the, rumors about the Catholic Church and whatnot. And, I never really let that get to me, but, going on deployment and seeing some of the things that you see, it kind of drives you away from, a life of faith. And I mean, I think that's common in a lot of Marines that we're in the, at OIF, GWAT era. And what would you say is something that, keeps you on a path of staying with the church, if you don't mind me asking?
Absolutely. No, and I think this is such a great question. And, my answer is not, the standard answer. It's my own personal opinion. I think that I lived a life without Christ for so long growing up that I never want to go back to that ever again. I truly believe that I've been changed from the inside out. I feel like my heart has been renewed. And if you ask some people, the way I talk, the way I act, the way I think is completely different. Now, I will say, being in the military, period, I think really tests your faith. I think that we're around a lot of darkness,
Absolutely.
a lot of evil. And I think humans are capable of incredibly evil things that we don't even realize. Like, what we're capable to do to other people is sometimes unfathomable. And I've never seen it in combat, and I know some people have. And I think that's the only way to get through the dark times, is to know that the Lord has made things for good, that he promises a life afterwards, that there is no pain, there is no sin. It's perfect, but we live in a sinful world where these things happen. And it's up to us to be the fruit and the light in these dark times. And so I haven't been challenged in that sense, where I've seen death so personal. And
honestly, that's exactly what it is.
Like,
not to interrupt you, but that's exactly what it is. When you're close to death, when you see death, it's something that I think you really have to have faith in, because when you see real death, there's nothing. It's very, very I don't even know how to put it. It's just underwhelming in a sense, because you kind of think when you see death, we're kind of like programmed to think there's something like an angel that goes up to the sky and it's the eyes just shut and he looks peaceful. It's not like that. It's ugly. It's very ugly. And a lot of people that don't have a strong faith, it might hit them differently. You're right. There's a lot of evil in this world, and it's hard to see sometimes. But how was it a hard decision? I mean, were you like heavy in the church before you joined the Marines, or was that something that came along the way?
Yes, kind of both, because my process in the Marine Corps took so long, in the sense of, like, I had to graduate college before I could commission. So I grew up Catholic, but I never really understood it, right? I went to the places because my parents told me to. And I remember feeling like there was something, but just confused on what that was. And then after my sophomore year, so I started in my freshman year, but after my sophomore year, I gave my life to Christ, and now I consider myself non-denominational, so not Catholic. But we're all the same. We're all Christians. We all believe the same thing. A little different. And so I think because I had that, actually, my second experience, so I went to 2 6-week classes, was so much better. I mean, I was somebody that I prayed for our whole class at the Christian service before we even started. And my faith, I think, is what was a catalyst and, like, brought more people and inspired others that you can be authentically you. Now, maybe that wasn't you in faith, but I stepped forward. I said, I'm a Christian. I don't curse. Yeah, I'm a Marine officer. I don't curse, right? People look at me like I'm nuts. It doesn't mean like I'm going to be inappropriate where you can't curse around me, right? You're not going to hear that back from me because I choose to watch my tongue, for example. Stuff like that. So I felt like, because I already had a strong foundation, it's only grown since. And since I've been in the Marine Corps, yes, there's been times where, it may not seem like the right thing to do, but in my office, you will see a Bible, you will see Bible verses, and I go to Bible studies and invite Marines. And once people see that it's okay to talk about, I've seen so many people go, oh my gosh, I was a Christian. I had no idea that I could express myself.
Really?
Or cool thing. And so then all of a sudden, Bible study starts like doubling in size of amongst all ranks. And we have that time to just sit down. And I know the military, we're very structured, but sit down and be brothers and sisters and be like, hey, let's talk about things. And that's so
is that
powerful.
something like when you're in church and like say some like an enlisted member comes in, or maybe someone, you know, lower rank than you, is that an environment that you can kind of take that hat off and be real with them? Or do you kind of do you still, you know, kind of keep your billet but kind of just you know, hold it a different way?
I think for me, and again, some people might not like this. When we're around and we're talking about the Lord and we're in a Bible study, there is no ma'am to me. We're brothers and sisters in Christ, and that's who I see. Now, there's times when I might speak a little bit differently, in the sense of like, if I hear someone's going through things, right, or they need prayer, I might coach them up a little bit differently as like a mentor, and can talk to them a little bit more like an officer. But generally, it's first name basis, and but there's an understanding, right? Like when you see me outside of there's respect. We're here, we can have real conversation, and I can ask a private, hey man, will you pray for me? And I want that private to feel like, absolutely, like, how can I help you, and vice versa.
I hear you. Well said. I like that, because there has to be certain environments that you can be a human being, and I think that's definitely one of them. But I'll kind of veer off a little bit from the church, because that's kind of maybe a, you know, sensitive one. But being just a female in a male dominated, you know, Marine Corps, what are some of the challenges that you faced early on, and how'd you overcome them?
I think the hardest challenge, and you know, it's one of those things where I like to act maybe like it doesn't bother me, but at the end of the time it does. And there's been times when I've been told people who have different viewpoints that they don't believe women should be in the Marine Corps. And that's tough. But in my opinion, I'm like, you're entitled to your own opinion, and that your opinion is your opinion. And it is not my job to change your opinion. It is not my job to make you like me. We took the same oath. We're fighting for the same causes. And I am who I am. I'm not going to pretend to act like a male. I'm not going to carry myself differently. You know, I'm going to be a Marine officer and what the Marine Corps expects of me. And if you don't like the fact that women are in, that's your problem. I'm not taking that on for myself. Absolutely. And that's cool. And then, you know, one other thing, and it's not easy to talk about, but I was told by an individual who was in the service at the time in the Marine Corps, who said, you know, if you join the Marine Corps, I hope you know you're going to be sexually assaulted if you go to combat. And that was really tough. I would assume that came from a place of wanting to protect me, and
I hope
and not like be a threat or scare me. But that did not obviously sit well with me. Of course. And that was something I'm like, I don't understand how that's my fault. You know, like, because I'm a woman, I'm going to tempt people to do like a terrible thing. Like, I just don't think that's right. And so what I love about that story, and what I love about what God does, is not letting fear prevent me from doing things, but also taking a step further. I'm now a sexual assault victims advocate, and I've been for over 3 years. And that was something I volunteered to do because of that. So I said, well, I'm an officer, and if this is a stereotype that this is going to happen to me, how about I use my rank, use my voice to be a voice for others as they're walking through this. And so that's something that I've taken upon myself to make sure that I've done, and I will continue to do in my career as a volunteer billet because of it.
That's very big of you. No, I mean, when I was in, that was definitely something that was a big problem. Is, from what you can talk about, is that something that's been kind of quelled or handled in the Marines, or is it something that's still, you know, actively a big issue?
I think I'll expand this just in general. I don't think it's a Marine Corps problem. I think it's a worldwide problem.
Of course.
You know, that there's constantly issues that we see all the time that happens. And I know there's some weird statistics of, oh, this much unreported, it's hard to prove those things. What I can say is sexual assault does happen. It happens in the Marine Corps, it happens in the military, and it happens outside of the military. It's just a thing that happens. And it's never, in my honest opinion, it's never a victim's fault. So what can we do to get ahead of this? What can we do to stop this? And I will say the Marine Corps has done an incredible job of revamping their education system about sexual assault. It's not taboo to talk about. It's something that every year, annually, you will get this. And the goal is to get ahead of it. Hey, here's our signs to look out for. Doesn't mean you can prevent everything, but here are ways. Hey, did you know that you have to get consent? An 18-year-old right out of like high school, or even some of us out of college, like, do we really know what consent meant? We come from all walks of life in the Marine Corps, which is what makes us so incredibly amazing. And so some of it's just like, hey, let's give you tools and resources so you guys know how to educate yourself and how to check your buddies around you and what to look out for. And so, in my opinion, I think that we have grown significantly in the right direction. Do I think sexual assaults will be completely gone and out of the Marine Corps, never an issue? No. But I think that we can continue to talk about it and educate and let people know. And I think we will continue to see a decrease in numbers.
So really it comes down to spreading awareness and having these hard conversations. You know, no one likes to talk about this stuff, but someone has to, unfortunately. You know, we need to somehow spread awareness on the hard topics, and to do that, we need to talk about it. Okay. So let's kind of go into athletics a little bit more. Let's see. Where did you find a bobsled, and where'd you get going on? Where did that come from?
Yeah. This question's always so crazy, right? Like, did you grow up doing this? You know, no. So what I will say about bobsled is an extreme sport. High G's, like the G forces that you experience, when things go south, they go south quickly, right? There's, you know, it's not like you get pushed in a basketball game. Like you're crashing 80, 90 miles an hour on your head, ice burn, concussions, neck injuries, all of that. So it's not really a child-friendly sport, right? You don't see, you know, you send your 4-year-old to a soccer game, you're not going to send them down a bobsled track. So a lot of athletes, not all, but majority of us, were Division I sports or athletes in other sports. And we got transferred to bobsled.
Gotcha.
So runnings, a lot of us, not myself, but a lot of my teammates were track athletes. Okay. They're really, and they could push things. And then myself and a couple other people, I played softball. We have football, lacrosse. We've even had some volleyball. It kind of just depends. But all of us, I would say about 90% of us were Division I college athletes and were transferred over later on after college. And some people actually grow up in those random pockets of Lake Placid, New York, and actually do it from and there is a junior program. It's much different. There's more safety measures involved, but you have to be at least a certain age to be able to do that. Gotcha. But like I said, my team, I played softball. I got involved after. I actually joined the Marine Corps first. So I was already in the Marine Corps before I was ever a bobsledder. So gotcha. That came on.
Okay. So what, are you the first one in? Like being the pilot?
As a pilot, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I thought so. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So explain what stage you're at in bobsledding, because I mean, it kind of seemed like you were on Team USA, but then I read a little bit more into it, and I think you're just at the national level. So how does one transgress to that?
Yeah. So the best way I can describe it is there's several different kinds of circuits. So baseball, right? I was a softball girl. There's A ball, so there's A ball, AA, AAA, major league, right? There's kind of like a system, and we kind of have a system like that in bobsled. So when you come in, naturally, you're just a development athlete or a rookie, right? You're trying to just figure out the sport. So that's year one. And then the goal is to start competing at the lowest level. So this lowest level, think of it like A ball. There's a North American and a European Cup, and they are a tour where you're going to different places and you're competing for points, but it's like a B level circuit. Gotcha. Still competition, the same tracks that everyone else uses. It's just not, it's more of a learning, developing competition.
Gotcha. Okay.
Level above that is World Cup. So World Cup is like your professional. And that is where you do travel the whole world. You're competing with the Olympians, all that kind of stuff. So in the years past, you had to make that World Cup team, also known as a national team. And so this past year, I actually made the national team, was competing in World Cup. So I was at that highest level. And then once a year, you have world championships. And world championships is your Olympics of the non-Olympic year.
Okay.
And so it's like our Super Bowl.
Gotcha.
And so I was able to compete in my first world championships in St. Moritz, Switzerland this past year, which was awesome. So I competed against the Olympians and all this stuff. I have a long way to go, but it was an incredible experience. And so what these next couple years look like is ultimately getting to the Olympic Games, right? That's the ultimate goal. But you have to go and get to that through a certain level. And so it's to stay within that World Cup standard, but you can also still compete on those lower circuits. It's all about points that you're awarded for what place you get.
Okay.
And just continuously to learn and develop. The only way to get better at bobsled is the bobsled. For me as a pilot, the only way to learn how to drive is to drive. And I have a short amount of time to do that. So I had to take full advantage of that. My goal is to be the first female Marine in the Olympics in 2026 or 2030. But again, it's not easy to make an Olympic team. The Olympians are absolute studs. It's the best of the best of the best. And I've been blessed and so fortunate to even have made a national team and have competed in world championships and get to share the ice with some of these men and women.
That's awesome. I'll be looking out for you. What's some of the advice that you would give to maybe a young female Marine that's athletic, that wants to get into athletics similar to you? What's the standard that they need to keep? What's the level of fitness that they need to achieve to be competitive at? I know this is like a 4-prong question, but really, what advice would you give to a young female that's trying to do what you do?
Yeah, the first advice before I even get into the athletic standpoint is, you mentioned it, is a Marine, right? And so you're a Marine first. And so something that I've learned very quickly, and I'm sure you have and other people, you have to be able to show competency and be able to do your job and to do it well. And anytime my Marines as well do their job and do it well, it's easy for me to give them things. It's easy for me to allow them to go to courses. Heck, I want them to. I'm like, go get better. You're a stud. If you're not getting your job done day to day, why could I trust you with extra?
Of course.
So my first advice would be freaking squared away as a Marine. Do your job in and out, go the extra mile, and make sure that you're squared away. You can manage time, etc. Then second step, athleticism. As a Marine, I believe we're all athletes. I really do. I think what's required of us is absolutely of an athletic team. And so what your standards need to look like for bobsled specifically is you need to be powerful, forceful, and fast. And so you need to be able to run quickly, but then you have to run and push a 400-pound sled. So you need to be able to run fast, but have some weight on you and have force production into that sled. So for me, I need to be able to do short sprints with weight, and then power clean, be explosive, and like broad jumps and
Gotcha.
and plyo work. So it's kind of a jack of all trades. But my general idea when I'm talking about, Marines and obtaining physical fitness, don't just do the PFT. Don't just be good at 3 miles. Like, you need to be in the gym. You need to be able to run. You need to be able to sprint. You need to be able to do everything. I don't care, because when we're in combat, and that's what you need to be an athlete for, that's game day. You need to be able to do it all. And and we talk about it and we joke all the time, but I'm like, at what point nowadays are you going to be, hey, we're in combat, go run 3 miles to the enemy? Probably not, right? But I need you to be able to go attack that hill and carry ammunition as you do it, and all this different kinds of stuff as you get it, right? So I would just say, I want people to be well diverse. And sometimes people say, Riley, you're good at everything, but you're not great at one thing. And sometimes I'm like, dang it. But then again, I'm like, well, then I can at least do a lot of things. Like, I'm versatile. Like, you can use me. And then you can make me great in certain things because I have a foundation.
I like it. Okay. You're very good at articulating yourself and answering questions, I see. What was this? What were you on, a game show recently? What was that?
Yes. So I got to brag on God for a second here. So I am self-funded for majority of my season. And so what that looks like is Team USA pays, but It's not even close of covering all my costs. And so I knew I was going to be on World Cup, and I knew that I was going to have to fork up a good amount of money to ship my sled across, live in, we're competing in these like winter wonderlands, like the Swiss Alps is where the track is. It's not cheap, for example. So I was just praying, and I'm like, Lord, like financially, how am I going to make this happen? And if it's meant to be, you'll make a way. And I get a message on Instagram. I thought it was like someone messing with me, and was like, I'm a casting producer. We're about to have this new game show. I think you'd be great for it. If you'd like to apply, here's the information. And again, I was like, okay, what telemarketer is trying to get my information?
Right.
I'm all like, scared. And
you gotta be.
Yeah, it ended up being legitimate. And it was for a show called Lingo. It's very similar to like Wordle.
Okay.
Words, besides where you get the first letter, and it was a teammate. So of course I chose my mom. My mom is one of the smartest people I've ever met and is a total boss lady and
Gotcha.
calm. Like she's the calm one because I'm like high emotion, big, like excited, and she's very steady. And so we got to go on the show. It actually was filmed in the UK, so I'd never been to the UK before. They flew us out. It was in the middle of COVID. We had to get COVID tested. It was so stressful. Yeah. And I fell in love with it, and we ended up winning. And it was, I prayed the whole time. I'm like, Lord, like, this is your will, let it be. And
that's awesome.
I ugly cried on national television. So
I saw you started crying. Yeah.
I still clips on my Instagram, but it is still streaming. If anyone has Paramount Plus, it's Lingo episode 7. My mom and I is like the thumbnail picture. But yeah, it was one of the most amazing experiences. And now I'm like itching to go back on TV. I'm like, does anyone else need anybody? It was an amazing experience.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you. So tell me, being a jack of all trades and, being good at most things, what's some of your goals? What's some of your goals as an officer? Is going the field route something you desire? Is deploying, going down range something that, entices you? Or do you see yourself more, in garrison and, leading Marines to that level? Talk to me.
Yeah. So I have a couple big goals. And number one, I think it's really hard for people that, have come in later the past 4 to 5 years in the Marine Corps, because we're not actively deploying, and deployments that look nowadays are muse, and you're not really doing much of anything at all. Right. And I have a desire to deploy. Absolutely. I joined the Marine Corps to play, not to be a bench player, not to practice. Right. Like I came in here because I want to freaking get some, and I want to test it, and I want to lead in the middle of chaos, and I want to lead my men and women to victory and walk away and represent my country and do something positive for this world. That's why I signed up to join this warfighting organization. However, I know that where I'm at right now, that's not feasible to be able to do my other biggest goal, which is to lead and inspire and be the first female Marine in the Olympics. Now, there's still a time for deployment, and my goal is to deploy. Right now, my focus is leading by example, educating and being a mentor to as many men and women as I possibly can, and being a positive face for the Marine Corps. I want to help with recruiting. I want to help with retention.
I was just going to ask you that. You're a recruiter's dream.
Yeah. And I told them to use me. And I have been. I've gone to RSs. I've gone to schools. I love public speaking. I love sharing my story because I get to share the gospel. I get to motivate women, and they can now see it so they can be it. And that's something that I didn't have.
Very true.
And
Very
so
true.
It's to leave it better than I found it. And so I'm like, I'm here, use me as a resource. But also like, I want to get mine at some point. And so those are my goals. I don't enjoy being in garrison. That's something that we're in right now. So how can I make the most of this for myself and my Marines? How can we still have goals that simulate that, and we're ready for that call when it happens? But also, okay, Rye, like I want to take it upon myself to be that guinea pig, to make a way where there's not a way for sport, and be that role model for women, also men, but more in particular.
I hear you. Be real. I got you. So something that I think is compared to deploying is being a pilot on a bobsled, man. You have to remain calm in chaos. And that's something that, you kind of see being on the bobsled. You got to, operate in a high intense situation. And I'm sure that shows you a little bit that you're capable in scenarios like that, but it's definitely comparable. So something else I wanted to ask you, just give me your top memorable moment. Let's say, I mean, a lot of stuff's happened for you in the last 2 or 3 years. So I don't know, give me your favorite thing that happened.
Oh, um, geez, it's so hard to pick one. I think one of my biggest memorable moments recently, right, where I get a call and I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what just happened? Was to be honest, when I've had some of my Marines come to church and they
Really?
walk and they're like, I this is not what I thought church was. I'm really interested in pursuing my faith, and now that I've left, they continue to come to that church, and that I know that's probably not what you expected, and
No,
that's
but
what's
that's real. I hear you.
because I'm like, Lord, I'm doing your will. For me, I've won awards. I, stood on top of a podium. I've been named to the team, and all that stuff is so great. But I will tell you, it is fleeting. It is quickly
Oh
fleeing because
yeah,
the second you get it, what's next?
exactly.
And I feel like people sell their souls chasing something that they think is going to fulfill them. And I tell you right now, it's not. And so that's why I tell people, like, if I never make the Olympic Games, that's okay. Because I know that being Olympian isn't going to like satisfy every hard day and moment. Like, it'll feel great. And I'm sure like being at the Olympic Games will be like the highest of high. But you hear about the lowest of low that comes right
Hmm.
after it because it's not
Because you can't
sustainable.
match it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you
Right.
have
And so
have
I
you have
think
you
some of my
noticed
best,
have you noticed that people chase that to a certain degree and they get is that I mean that's ultimately what you're
I,
talking about, right?
I've noticed people will sell their souls and will do, and quote, I will do whatever it takes. And I tell people all the time, I will not do whatever it takes. I will not. I will not comprise my morals, my values. I will not leave my friends and my teammates hanging. I will not step on their throats to achieve something that the world or other people are thinks is satisfying and cool. I'm not going to do it. And I
Wow.
think I learned, and I'm so blessed that I have my faith and I have other hats that I wear that I don't feel like all my eggs are in that basket. And there are some people, and not just the Olympics or the sports, there's people that their identity is what they do to some degree. And I think that is so destructive.
For sure.
And it breaks. My goal is to remind people, let them know you are so much more than that. You are so much more than that. And that one title is not who you are. Because once that gets taken, once you get injured, once you retire, whatever, and that's gone, you are going to have such an identity crisis. And
For
I
sure.
like my for those people.
Wow, I'm really surprised being as young as you are that you're aware of that. Usually that's something that you have to go through some hard times and find that out, but being, where you are right now and knowing that that's very good. Um I'm impressed. Well, the last thing I was going to ask you, I mean, what was the impact of, being named Miss Military 2023? I mean, and how did that affect your trajectory, your career, and or personal life? Did it shine through it all?
So I got a message about this pageant, and I will be completely honest, I was very reluctant. Um, I was like, I've never been a pageant before. And obviously, like the idea of me kind of wants to, and because of lack of knowledge, right, kind of like pick fun at it, being like, I don't want someone to look at me and judge me based off of my body and tell me that I don't look good enough in a swimsuit and that I didn't answer a question politically correct. That's not who I am. And when I found more about this Miss Military pageant, they cared so much about community service and outreach work and what you're doing for your military community. There's no swimsuit competition.
Mm,
Obviously, like a dress, but it's not like you're being judged on your looks.
gotcha.
And you want to look nice. Like I curl my hair and I put makeup on, okay? But it's not about that. And so every single person that stood on that stage with me was either active or a veteran. And their reason why they were there was because the community outreach work they did. And to stand upon a stage of people that are like, I just want to make people's life better, that are involved with veterans or different kind of entities was inspiring to me. And You know, if I'm going to do something, I want to win. Obviously, I'm like one of the most competitive people ever.
Of course.
But to be in that environment, to put myself out there was really, yeah, I'm a very bold person, but I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like a pageant, what, you know? And I walked away being like, oh my gosh, I butchered that question. And people were like, no, we thought that was great. And I was like, really? You know, like what I got out of that was I impacted some people in that room. I was able to touch people. And believe it or not, it's what the idea of what people think, I'm trying to figure out what this is. The power that people put into that crown is what makes it special. And here's why. I went to an event at March Air Force Base, and it was the air show. And I'm walking around, and I have my sash, and I have my crown on, and I'm interested in like a civilian, like romper, bodysuit, jumpsuit, dress, whatever. So people didn't really know, besides where it said Miss Military. And I'm walking around, and all these young girls and are looking at me, and they're like, "Mom, it's a princess." And I was able to take the crown off my head, place it on these children, and the biggest smile that they had. And I got to tell them, you know, like, I'm not a princess. I'm actually in the military, and I won this. And again, power of people to be like, wait, they're seeing, you know, people in uniform, they're seeing the air show, and they're like, wait, you do that, and you do this. That has been the most impactful thing, was that I can make people feel like they're on top of the world and let them know that they're seen and that they're valued. And then they get to see that I am in the military and I can be feminine and I can dress a certain way, I think is the most powerful thing that this title has given me. And I'm so thankful. I didn't expect, but the rewarding of, you know, how many pictures I'm in with random people and young kids, right? And to them in that moment, I was like a princess, and I got to give that to them, and the look on their face and that stuff, that was, that is something that I don't think I'll ever get tired of.
Damn, well said. I like it. So lastly, leave us with something. What's something you want to leave us with here as a, you know, a first lieutenant, female officer, shit hot, clearly, squared away, doing the thing, doing it right. What's you know, what's something that you can leave us with? Give us something.
Yeah, and this is something that I've been telling a lot of people, and I think it means something to stay consistent in your message. And a biggest thing I just want to leave everyone with here is start taking risk. Stop telling yourself no before someone else tells you no. There's no reason why I should be in the military, because I was told so many times by myself it wasn't possible, by others. There's no reason I should be a bobsled athlete. There's no reason I should have gotten a Division I scholarship. There's no reason I should have been in a pageant. There was so many no's that I created against why that wasn't possible, that I'm like, or going on the game show, I'm like, dang, like people are holding themselves back before someone else even tries to tell them that it's not possible. So stop telling yourself no before someone else does. If you have a goal and desire and dream in your heart that is from the Lord and is there on purpose, and pursue that. I'm not saying it's going to work out, but my goodness, in the pursuit, you will find out so much about yourself. And I'm sitting here talking today, and in 3 years from now, I would love to listen back to this and know whether or not I made the Olympics or not. And I can't wait to listen and tell myself, you know what? My goodness, regardless of what happened, that journey was the most incredible thing. And I didn't prevent myself because I didn't want to be a poser. I didn't want to look like shy or like, what if I don't get it? No, forget that. I'm going to go do it. And I'm sure there's several of us, if you have that desire, if you could do anything in the world right now, what would that be? Why the heck are you not pursuing it?
Bam. There it is. So where can we find you? Where can
I am only on, so far, one Instagram platform, just Instagram. You can find me there, Riley.Tejcek. I know it's weird to spell. It's the first one that pops up. All the other ones are fake. And you can, through that, I have my email as well, or send me a direct message. I actually reply to every single message that's not inappropriate.
Yep, of course.
And I reach out and help people. So Instagram, that'll give you my email. And then I do have something in the works that I'm really excited for that I'm not allowed to say yet, but something is coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. First Lieutenant Riley Tejcek, over at Quantico, leaving us with her positive mindset and thinking. Riley, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to talking to you again, and good luck with everything. I look forward to hearing more about you. Definitely.
Thank you.
Rah.